Chris Wederick. I'm the assistant editorial page editor of the State Journal-Register. Bernie, there wasn't a lot of movement in the meetings between legislative leaders, and the governor this week. House Minority Leader Tom Cross, a Republican from the Chicago suburbs, said the Democrats actually spent a good deal of time bickering amongst themselves, looking at this July 1st deadline that we have, and what's the possible impact on state workers, and what should be their level of fear, I guess, at this point.
Well, if I were working for the state, it wouldn't be the best time in my career, just because the state budget, has been passed with certain agencies only getting like half of what they're supposed to for the year. Governor Quinn is trying to say that every, bad stuff will happen if we don't pass a tax increase. Mm-hmm. But that critical mass does not seem to be building, at least at this point, So I know AFSCME, the main union of state workers, has said that just at the 25% reserve that Governor Quinn said he wanted the agencies to do, don't spend a quarter of what you're going to get.
Right.
That could mean 9,000 layoffs. And if you're targeted for a layoff, under union contracts, generally there are bumping rights, which means if you're a senior employee, you've been there for a long time, you get knocked out of a certain job, then under certain circumstances you would have a right to claim another job down the food chain, and then someone else would lose their job to make room for you. Not a pleasant situation for anyone. So it's a tense time. We see that there are political kind of games being played. I mean, what we see is Pat Quinn going to various social service agencies who will lose a lot of funding and saying, we're better than this in Illinois. We need to fund child care. We need to fund care for the elderly. But boy, as the end of the month, and which is the end of the fiscal year, approaches, again, things are not building yet. We'll see if that kind of all-nighter, get the term paper done kind of mentality emerges by June 30th.
Right. The governor, you mentioned he'd been making trips around the state and talking of the consequences of not passing his income tax increase. We heard this kind of thing from Governor Blagojevich, too. He always warned of, doomsday if he didn't get his way. Yeah. Can people believe Pat Quinn where they couldn't believe Rod Blagojevich, and why would that be, or why not, I guess?
Well, the legislature did a lot as it could to try to block whatever Rod Blagojevich said, so he was somewhat more hamstrung in getting things done. But generally speaking, in every way, or in many ways, his word was not good. Mm-hmm. So you would take things with a grain of salt. Now, Pat Quinn clearly is on the side of the little guy, talks about it a lot now, probably too much for some of the legislators who he puts in a bad light. He doesn't want to cut funding to agencies that do good things for people, to cut all of the, alcohol treatment places in the state.
Right.
But I think his word is better than Blagojevich. His word is good. Mm-hmm. So he certainly, I think, is setting up these cuts as necessary, and I would tend to think that he would implement some if he doesn't think he has budget money to do otherwise. So it may actually be a little scarier in that regard, because it's not just some guy off to the side screaming.
Now, at this point, House Republicans at least have to vote for if they're going to pass a new budget, a larger budget, or any kind of tax increase, the House Republicans have to vote, and you would have to bat 1,000 basically in the Senate with the Democrats. Otherwise, you would need Senate Republican votes as well. I mean, has the end game really changed here? I mean, is there any? There's nothing that they can do unless they have Republican votes.
Yeah, something has to happen. People have to get a sense of urgency that as the leaders and the governor aren't even meeting until the middle of the coming week, and they have to know that this is happening. I think, for example, that legislators from Springfield who are closer to state government and have so many people who work for state government would probably tend more towards reaching a reasonable way to say, yes, I can vote for either a temporary income tax increase or something else. I think Senator Baumke has said something to that effect. I know I talked to Representative Poe, who at least more than a week ago, who left himself open to the possibility of the right kind of plan. So something has to happen, and there has to be a deal. But again, Republicans are still, and certainly those running for office next time, the statewide offices are talking about, well, we really haven't come to grips in state government with the fat and the waste, and we want to cut more. But that's a horribly difficult thing to do in the amount necessary to avoid really severe cuts. So there's going to have to be some point where the Republicans make their political points and realize that, okay, that game is good. We've got our campaign flyers ready to go, but then some, in what they call a structured roll call, of course, people in safe districts or where people, want state government to go on pretty much as it is, at least in the service level, will have to say, yeah, we can have these people vote for some new revenue.
I had a discussion this week with the House Republican spokeswoman, and she seemed to be very adamant that there's this sweeping review of state government they want. Will they have to come off that, do you think, or can they carry that to the brink?
Well, the brink is June 30th. That's when the term papers due. Something might happen in that regard. You've already had some studies of how to cut state government that even the Democrats in the legislature have come up with, and yet, when the results that they get are not enough to make a serious difference when you're talking about perhaps a $7 billion hole in the state budget, and maybe there will be some compromise in that way, but there's going to have to be, you can't, I don't think, reform your way out of the problem they've got for so many reasons. And, and Republicans can blame all that on Rod Blagojevich and Pat Quinn and the dysfunctional Democrats anyway next time. But, that's one reason this is holding on till the end of the month. But some accommodation will have to be made, or July will be really difficult around Springfield.
Okay. Well, thanks again for joining us. You can read more about state government at our state government website, thedome.sj-r.com. Thanks again.